I love doing this, and we're going to let you guys all in here. Let's see if I can get you guys all coming in. Is everybody coming in, Chris? Yeah?
Yep, yep.
All right, beautiful. It's so funny because I can't always see how many people are coming in. My name is Sarah Cooperman. I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness. And our motto for 2026 is moving fitness forward. I think that's very important. I sound like I'm 900 years old, but I'm digging the change. I love to see change going on. I love to see controversy and people adapting to different things. We've already discussed that a couple of us have different opinions on stuff. I want to dig in and I want to talk about it and I want it to get ugly and dirty and get crap under your fingernails. So I'm very excited to have these wonderful people on this webinar. We've got Robert Linkle, we've got Deborah Rothschild, we have Emily Spischel, and we also have Dan Ritchie. So I am going to let you guys. I can't believe I'm allowing this freedom because I'm a little scared, but you guys get to introduce yourself. Short, sweet,
Woo!
to the point. Yeah, Robert, don't get excited, you and the beard. Okay, hit me, man. You start.
You want me to start?
Yeah, you
All
introduce
right.
yourself.
I am Robert Linkle. I live out here just north of Sacramento, California, and my wife and I own trainingtheolderadult.com, which is a older adult education program. We train clients and we also work with coaches, teaching them how to work with older populations. We specialize in resistance training for older pops to overcome sarcopenia, osteopenia, frailty. And I'm also the director of education for Fit Body Boot Camp, and I do all their programming for their older adult program, Fit Body Forever.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you
Dr.
for having me.
Emily, let's go.
All
And I want
right.
to know, you have to share with everybody where you're at right now, physically.
I am in my car. My apologies. At my daughter's gymnastics. This is mom life. I was in Japan for a week, so I'm just trying to play major catch up here. But Dr. Emily, I'm a functional podiatrist, human movement specialist, founder of Naboso, which are sensory-based products, which actually acquired my education company, which was EBFA Global. Now it's Naboso University. And my focus, my passion is movement longevity. So I am all about walking speed, fascial connection, sensory stimulation to support longevity. And I know we're going to talk about muscle, but I am obsessed with muscle as well for
She's obsessed.
anti-aging.
Very cool, very cool. All right, Dan Ritchie, tell us what's going on and where you're calling in from.
All right, I am in West Lafayette, Indiana. Go Purdue. Um, got my PhD at Purdue University in kinesiology and gerontology. Co-founded the Functional Aging Institute, 12 years ago. Certified over 6,000 functional aging specialists in 35 countries. And I love talking all things functional aging. And glad to hear we're allowed to discuss heatedly tonight. I'm excited about that.
Everybody's usually scared, and the nicest person on this call is Deborah Rothschild. Deborah, please introduce yourself.
That was very sweet. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I'm Deborah Rothschild, owner of Tough Agers LLC, a virtual and on location fitness company, highly specializing in older adults. Been doing a lot of work with people with dementia and mild cognitive impairment. I do focus on people with osteopenia, osteoporosis, people who have had strokes, cancer survivors. So I work one on one with them virtually. And so I go into memory care and places like that. I would like to share that last week I presented at my first non fitness conference. It's called the Eden Alternative, and it's all alternative ways to support people with dementia. And of course, I spoke about the importance of fitness for dementia. So, really trying to bridge the gap into those communities. And I'd love to share more, but that's me, Deborah Rothschild.
That's great. And I say she's the nicest. Not that everybody else on this call isn't nice, but because of the name Tough Agers, people are always terrified of her. So I really like this. We're going to be talking about active aging, the next chapter. And I got very inspired about this because, as usual, you guys know I love research and I don't know, I get it, I soak in it until my fingers are pruny. And our typically it's like our older adults are the top of this lovely triangle, and it's the fewest numbers. Right now we're not dealing with a triangle. Our older adults, we're like a cone. Do you know that in the next couple of years there's going to be more people over the age of 50 than there are under the age of 50? So this active aging, it's not a specialty market anymore, guys. This is where it's at. And Emily, kudos to you for balancing that career and that family life, because that's what all of us do. All of us do on this webinar. So we're going to be talking about what has changed the most in the past few years dealing with active older adults. I'm going to start with you, Robert, because I want to talk about, are they training? Are they thinking about it? What has shifted that we're finding in society?
I would start by saying that I think one of the biggest things that have changed for the industry is just recognition of how important muscle mass strength gaining is to combating sarcopenia, frailty, becoming more frail as we age. This was always maybe seen as a taboo kind of thing. You're going to get too muscular, or you're going to get hurt, or both. I've been trying forever to get too muscular. It still hasn't worked yet. Our aging populations are, slowly withering away in the amount of testosterone and estrogen and estradiol and everything else that helps build all their muscle mass. You're not going to get too bulky. The more resistance training we do, the more dense they're going to get with muscle mass and bone density. All this is going to help them be less frail, be less likely to fall. We know falls lead to, within a 6-month period, potential very high rate of death for them. So I think really we've just kind of changed the overall view that resistance training is not some underground, subculture. This really is the thing to embrace. We have so many great minds in the industry that are educating about this. So many great research projects that are being done to reinforce that and really help drive that home. And as you're seeing with every organization out there, more information, specialties, certifications, all geared towards this population. So all of it, I'm very excited about and very happy, because this has been a lifelong pursuit for myself and for Dan, a lot of us that kind of specialized in the aging population and working with people and telling them, educating them, you got to get stronger if you want to live longer. It really is the foundation of this whole thing. So I think that's probably the biggest change that we've seen.
And Deborah, what do you see as this change? Because how long have you been doing this, working, specializing with active agers?
Since 2015. So what is that? I guess 11 years. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, they called it at the conference I was at last week, the Silver Tsunami, because the participants were all those people who run those senior living communities. So that's a good term, Silver Tsunami. Definitely, the lifespan is the longest it's been, but our focus now is on health span, right? Because if they're saying about 1/5 of the lifespan is spent in poor health or with disabilities, like Robert talked about the falls, then that's not quality of life, right? So there's where we play a huge role. I just want to talk to you about numbers because I, like you, Sarah, I love numbers. 1 in 10 older Americans currently have dementia, and 22%, so that's 10%, right? 22% have mild cognitive impairment. So you're talking 32% of our silver tsunami have cognitive concerns. So it's really important for people in this industry to understand how to work with that population. And then you mentioned osteoporosis, right? 1 in 3 women, 1 in 5 men over 50, right? So again, there's certain protocols that we need to be aware of because there's more and more of these people in our classes and our training sessions.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that we look at how that is changing, and it really has become a public sentiment. It no longer do you need to convince an older woman you're not going to get bulky. They get it. All right, Emily, you're nodding. Talk to us about what you're finding.
Yeah, which I think is the perfect segue of what I was going to say is everyone knows that they're aging. No one wants to fall. They understand the risks of osteopenia and sarcopenia, they understand all of this. So I think the shift that I see, because I'm in a heavy space of content, I sell consumer products, is this is the time that people want to take ownership of their health. So they're seeking information. So for the professionals who are listening to this, is how do you serve that? How do you educate them more? How do you empower them? How do you speak to them, not below them? I'm all about speaking just one level above them so that they're learning and they're challenging and they're taking that ownership. So they know they're not going to get bulky. Well, maybe not all of them. They still might doubt that, but it's it's them seeing the importance. They don't have to be sold on the importance of fitness anymore. It's now, how do you empower them so they can do it on their own and they don't have to be married to you and your services because you are essentially empowering them. I'm a huge advocate of not being tied to the trainer, but you give them the skills, which is this feed forward loop and pay it forward so you can just get more people in and educate and empower them.
Totally agree. And yet numbers, as you guys know, numbers don't lie. They just don't lie. We have almost 330 people that registered for this webinar. We already have almost 90 people showing up live, giving us their time. So Dan, you are one of the absolute originators of certifying people, training them specifically in the science behind active aging, effectively and in a healthy fitness manner. What are you seeing about all these changes?
Yeah, well, kind of three things come to my mind. One is we have the largest population in US history that is turning 80 in 2026. There's still 70 million baby boomers with us. That is a huge population that is beginning to turn 80. And what do we know happens at age 80? We start to see all these frailty concerns, right? We start to see cognitive decline. We see osteoporosis, falls and fractures, and all sorts of quality of life implications. And so the opportunity hasn't gotten smaller, it's only gotten bigger. And now all the boomers have come to the active age, right? It's not like, oh, I'm a boomer, but I'm only 55. It's like, no, all the boomers are in their 60s and 70s and they're now turning 80. And guess who's coming right behind them? The Gen Xers started turning 60 last year. Blows my mind that my generation is now turning 60 and they don't want to age the way they've seen their grandparents age, their parents age. And so the opportunities in bone health, brain health, fall risk, they're only getting bigger, right? This niche, which everyone has called it for so long, is not a niche. It's like 100 million people. And oh, by the way, they have all the money. They have all the need. They have all the money. It's the biggest opportunity. I still say this to fitness professionals. It's the biggest opportunity you can find in the fitness world. The need is huge and it continues to grow. It's not going away. I hate to say it, but we haven't solved sarcopenia, osteopenia, brain health decline. In fact, the population's getting so big, Alzheimer's Association is now saying that baby boomers are going to face their retirement years dealing with Alzheimer's, either caring for someone who has it or dealing with it themselves. And I don't think that's what baby boomers were hoping for their retirement years. So the opportunity is massive, and I'm glad that you have over 300 people registered because it's only going to continue to grow.
Right. And it is. It's just growing. And it's getting a lot of attention. Like at our conferences, we had to designate a complete active aging room. And then we also have to have an exercise science room so people can get the balance and get the lectures. And nutrition is also huge and people want to know about it. But okay, so you know me, I wanted to bring up something that you guys aren't going to like. So that makes me happy. I was reading about the new ACSM guidelines because ACSM didn't rewrite, they rewrote their guidelines in 2009. And now it's 2026. All right. That was a long time ago. And now what they're saying is the highly structured progressive models, for training getting heavier and heavier, they're taking it away. They're looking at participation and individualization. They're looking at They find that far more important than rapid programming. Minimal doses of work are encouraged. It's far more important than rigid programming. And it's also, I'm going to say this, it's like heavy weights. They're kind of looking at, well, it doesn't have to be just heavy weights. There can be all forms of resistance count, weight bearing, bands, etc. And so I think that this is fascinating, and I think the impact of our population just getting older. Modern medicine is just keeping us alive. It's keeping us alive, not with the quality of life like Deborah and Dan have been talking about, but it's keeping us alive. So talk to me about training models. Okay, I know, Robert, I'm a little scared of how you're going to, he's going to attack me. He's got weights behind him he can throw. But, I get it. This obsession with strength and power and Les Mills heavy and Zumba lift and heavy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to tell you all, thank God I got Zoom here. I'm 67 years old. I'm not walking in a gym, and I'm not going to do like 6 reps till I drop. I'm kind of worried I'm going to injure myself. So I start with a little bit of a lighter weight, and I'll do 15 to 20 reps. And I don't call it failure. I want to call it to fatigue, to where I feel it and I want to maintain my posture alignment. It's all about me. It's like going to getting as close to failure as I can, going to fatigue, maintaining. When I see my posture, my body alignment going, that's when I stop. So, Robert, talk to me about this. How are you training your adults? Give these 300 plus people some insight.
We lift them heavy. That is our primary focus, is to get people lifting as heavy a load as they can. And I'll tell you why. The primary goal for the average age individual over the age of 55 that wants to have a longer life with higher quality and higher function, they've got to have adequate muscle mass and they have to have adequate bone density. And there's plenty of research, starting with probably the most founded one is the Lift More studies with Belinda Beck, both men and women, showcasing 85% of your 1 rep maximum or higher, 4 to 5 lifts, 5 reps of 5 sets with these heavy loads can be done in as little as 2 20-minute sessions per week, produce a massive amount of bone density response and muscular engagement. Even for postmenopausal women, we're able to gain muscle mass and increase their bone density, and they literally got taller. They all increased by an average of 1 centimeter taller, reversing their kyphosis. Their grip strength improved, their dynamic stability, their balance, their sit to stand, their timed up and go, their up and down from the floor, their 5 rep sit to stand. I mean, their performance across the board was exceptional, both men and women. So we do look at that as a foundation for us to say, if I really want to help you maintain posture, a good walking gait, keep you from hitting the ground and not breaking something, strong enough to play with grandkids, go on vacations, garden, do all these, we got to lift. But to chime in with what you are suggesting as well is we do need to train for some function. It can't just be all lifting throughout. So we do have mobility and warm up and prep, and we have cognitive movements, cognitive stimulus you want to put into your workouts. You want to have transitions and your movement patterns. Like, we want to have some functionality built in there, some cognitive stimulus. Dan can speak to that really well as an area of expertise. Foot strength, Emily can talk to that, how important that is, and reducing fall risk. 15 to 25 pounds of great toe pressure goes a long way for keeping people off the ground. So there's a lot there, but at its core, at the base foundation of whatever it is you want to go and get better at as you age, if you are stronger, you are so much more likely to achieve that and maintain that ability. So we start there with everybody. And of course, we don't want anyone to get hurt, so it's progressive overload. We start them light, we move them up, but our goal is to lift them as heavy as they can handle and maintain that strength for as long as possible.
Do me a favor, either put the link in or just type in the name of the Beck study you were talking about, because I was just looking at, I can't pronounce it right. I typed it in, I spelled research wrong, but it's Balich Andran et al. And it was a study done in 2023 that was a repeat of a Schoenfeld study from 2017 and another Schoenfeld study in 2020 that looked at low versus high load resistance training. And it's very interesting because the takeaways from that is for older adults, high rep training builds strength, endurance safely with similar motivation and adherence, strength gains, fat burning, etc. So it's maybe not that, oh, I want to go and do an older adult at pickleball competition. Am I going to get as much strength as I'm going to get? But it's living healthier, functioning. Dan, help us out here. Please throw some studies around. We'd love to hear them.
Yeah, well, we have to be careful when we look at some of those studies that say, hey, you can use higher rep ranges of 12 to 15. That's still lifting heavy stuff, right? If I'm lifting something at a 10, 12, 15 rep range, that's going to be really heavy weight for someone like me. And I think too often, we give 70-year-old women a pass. We're like, oh, well, grab the 4 or 5 pound dumbbells. I'm like, 5-pound dumbbells? That's not at someone's 50%, right? We're not really pushing someone. And so if you feel like, lifting really heavy, people get afraid of lifting really heavy. Okay, I'm willing to compromise and let you do a 12 to 15 rep range, but it's going to still be heavy, right? I mean, so I think sometimes people see that and they think, oh, I only have to do 15 reps, but they better be really hard quality reps. And then the one thing I appreciate about ACSM's recommendations is 10 minutes works. Too many people are still like, oh, I don't have an hour to work out. Who says you have to have an hour to work out? In fact, I want you working out 8 days a week, right? And people are like, wait a minute, there's only 7 days, right? But I want you doing 2 to 3 days a week of balance, 2 to 3 days a week of Robert's heavy strength training, 2 to 3 days a week of Emily's neurological training, right? Like we got to turn our nervous system on. How do I move? So it's not just get stronger, it's move better, have a better nervous system. Oh, and then Paul Holbrook's like, but it's all about speed, right? Can you run upstairs? So Sarah, you shared your age. It's really important for you to be able to bound upstairs and hop up from the floor. So pretty soon we're like, oh my gosh, I have to have 10 to 20 minutes of training of all these different things. How do I fit that in 3 days a week? You don't. And if you want to age really well, you should be moving your body every single day. You want to keep your brain sharp, you should be doing something movement-wise every single day. So I don't even like it when we're like, well, the recommendations say I only have to do 2 to 3 days a week of such and such. I'm like, well, you know what? I can find another recommendation that says you need 3 days a week of 50 minutes of cardiovascular training. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be living in the gym. You don't have to be living in the gym, but you do need to be moving your body every single day. And I think we get too caught up on what exactly are the recommendations, right? And the reality is we got to be doing speed training, power training, strength training, brain training. We got to be doing all of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't take that much time. There was a very interesting study. I'm going to try to do this really quickly, but there was a study done that people worked out 1 day a week. They were over the age of 70, and there were over 70 people in this study, and it lasted 4 months. Because you can get older adults that can commit to 4 months, 16 weeks, even though a semester is usually 10 to 12 weeks. We can get these older adults to commit, but they did 1 cardio and 1 strength in 1 week, and then another group did 2 cardios, 2 strength, which is like Monday, Wednesday cardio, Tuesday, Thursday strength. And then the next group did 3 cardios a week, 3 strength trainings a week. Now, the difference, what they found was the sweet spot was 2-2. The reason the sweet spot was 2-2, the 3-3 felt it was too much of a commitment, and adherence became an issue. But I think what you're talking about, Dan, is I'm not talking about that you got to go to the gym 6 days a week. I'm talking about take your dog for a walk. And when you tell me I got to be able to bound up the stairs, I got to be able to chase a grandchild and yank that kid out of the street. Those are some of the things, and we can talk about the 5 movement patterns, 7 movement patterns that we need to do, the push, the pull, the twist, that we need to do and maintain for our strength. Emily, talk to us about going from the ground up. I know you it's kind of weird. You're the queen of feet here, okay? So so please share with me about that.
Absolutely. And then I do have a couple additional thoughts on like the study you shared and the ACSM guidelines. But, to echo off of lifting, we want to make sure that we are lifting the right way and utilize our entire body, which of course includes our feet, our pelvic floor. So sometimes it's not just a matter of following a guideline, but make sure that you're doing it in a way that is utilizing skills of stabilization and strength that transfer outside of the gym and lifting. So of course that has to do with feet. And I have lectures on the aging foot. I think I might be doing one this weekend on how our feet change with age and how we have to factor that in. If I may, I had a few questions on the other thing, which I'm very passionate about because of being a woman in my 40s now, that hormones are extremely important. And Robert, I'm obsessed with lifting heavy. So, because I am all about hypertrophy. To me, it's not even a strength thing. I want to stimulate the muscle so that I can hypertrophy, because I know if right now in my 40s, this is where I'm hitting my peak muscle density for my 50s, for my 60s, for my 70s, etc. So the guidelines that you shared, Sarah, I would actually challenge ACSM and say you have different guidelines for women and for men. I don't think they should be the same. I think the stimulus that women need, changes in hormone, completely different. And the post workout supplements or protein or whatever you're taking, we don't develop the amino acid L-leucine as readily after a certain age. So you can lift until you turn purple. But if you don't give your body the building blocks to actually repair the muscle, you're not getting the benefit of it. So I just think that's the other part of the story as well, is kind of segmenting then what are they doing outside of it. The story for women has to start much earlier than thinking someone in their 70s. So I just feel the or the active aging category is really in your 40s, not 70s, 80s, etc. And then the last one that I would say is I just don't think of people in their 60s and 70s as frail. And I hope that when I'm in my 70s, that people are like, you can do this. You've lifted this weight. And I think people know that they're capable of it. So to push them and say, you can lift that. You can do that safely. We've done the proper pelvic floor engagement, so you're protecting your spine. You can do it. I mean, I even did that recently and I was scared to push the amount of weight on the leg press and I'm doing 450. I weigh 110 and I was like so scared. But after I did it, I was like, yes, like mic drop, like I feel strong. So I'm going to feel stronger as an independent person. Now, picture that doesn't have to be that exact weight in your 70s, but I would feel so empowered, especially as a female. So anyway, I will get off of the lift heavy. Robert and I over here lifting our heavy weights.
No, but it's very interesting. There was a study done at Indiana University. Dan, you're from Indiana, but there was a study done that was comparing group exercise instructors to that did cardio to the group exercise instructors that did strength. I think it was Tatiana Kulavu turned me on to this study, and it was fascinating. The women had such better self-esteem, the ones who were strength training. They simply felt stronger. So I hear
Yes.
what you're saying. I get it. I feel pretty good about myself, but I probably could feel better. Maybe I'll do some heavy lifting. Deborah, what do you see with all your older adults? And I want to hear about some of those changes that happen with your dementia clients that you're working with.
Yes, absolutely. So, research studies, I quote a couple of mine. I'm doing a session this weekend on dementia strategies for trainers. And these are the two of the, well, I don't know how much time you want me to talk about it, but so lifting heavy or not. So, my example is my 94-year-old gentleman with dementia who I've been working with 3 times a week for like 3 years. Okay. And the reason why somebody like me gets hired in those situations is because dad has fallen 6 times in 3 weeks. He has PT twice a week. he's still falling. So in comes the trainer. And I can tell you, in the 3 years that I've worked with him, he's maybe fallen 3 or 4 times. And all of those have been getting up in the middle of the night. And I really feel that's because he's half awake and because it's dark. But a couple of really important studies talking about heavy or not. I'm talking about, the 94-year-old with dementia. So this study was done with 109 patients. So this is mild to severe dementia, average age about 85. They had 3 groups. Okay, one group was the strength, and they called it aerobic. The aerobics was walking. So they did 2 strength and 2 walking days a week, and the study lasted for 9 weeks. Okay. Another group did aerobics only. So that was walking. And with walking, they increased the intensity with distance. And then the other group was socialization. We know socialization is key. That's why small group training and large group training is so great, key for wellness, right? Especially in older adults. So they had social visits 4 times a week. So with the strength and the aerobic, what exercises did they do and how did they progress it? They were leg exercises, and they progressed it with ankle weights. So we're not talking about the 400 pounds on the leg press. We're talking about ankle weights, right? We know that they have a max. Knee extensions, hip extension and hip abduction, and then toe raises, right? We know as we get older, we lose dorsiflexion, right? They're not doing the heel strike when they walk. That's why a lot of them are shuffling. That's why they fall. One reason why they fall. So they progressed it, the strength and the cardio. So they did cognitive and physical tests at baseline after the 9 weeks. And I find this really fascinating. Then they went away and nothing happened. And they came back 9 weeks later and tested them again. And here is what they found. The strength and the aerobic group, huge gains in global cognition, executive function, verbal memory, and visual memory, along with balance, leg strength, right, endurance. That's huge. The aerobics so that was the strength and the aerobics compared to the social visits. The aerobics only versus compared to the social visits, improved in executive function. So did improve, but not as drastically as the resistance training, right? So the resistance training was the key. And again, it wasn't heavy resistance training. So the researchers went away.
I'm
9
going to
weeks.
jump in real quickly, Deborah. What type of resistance training did they do?
Yeah, so they did knee extension, hip abduction,
No, I
hip
was wondering
extension.
about the percentage. Were they working at like a 60%? Were they going that 85%?
So they started body weight, that 12 reps. If they could do 12 reps, then they added like a pound in their ankle weights, built up to it, 8 reps, 10 reps, 12 reps. They can do 12 reps. They went back. So we're talking little ankle weights. 9 weeks later, nothing happened. 9 weeks, they came back. Everything returned to baseline, as if the aerobics never happened, as if the strength training never happened, as if the social visits never happened. So what does that tell us? What that tells me is you can't just do it for 9 weeks and, I'm good. I've improved. I'm good, right? It has to be the lifestyle. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where you're absolutely supporting Dan. You got to do something every day for mental health as well. Robert, you always talk about different movement patterns. These are kind of the set patterns we have to make sure that we address.
Yeah, I echo Dan and Deborah as well. We have a guideline goal of 225 minutes per week, so it's 32 minutes a day, basically, of some kind of activity. And we love to have our clients do 3 lifts, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that, and get out and go rucking or walking or something on the other days, work in the garden, just be active every day. But when they do lift, three movement patterns that really deliver some type of hinging action, a deadlift, a sit to stand, a bridge, some variation that will basically break at the hip and the knee and give them lower body strength and emphasis. Some variation of a pulling action, typically horizontal to begin, and then eventually from overhead, and then a loaded carry. If you hit those three for sure, we're going to see pretty drastic improvements with clients overall, from improving from grip strength and posture to their gait and their foot strength, transition, being able to move and carry their groceries back and forth, all that. If you address those three, we're good. The other two that we start to eventually kind of work into this more is some kind of overhead action. So if they can't overhead press in the beginning, we'll do pullovers or we'll do lat pull downs or some variation that gets their arms overhead, but maybe from a pulling action to begin. It'll eventually kind of groove the path, if you will, to an overhead press, because we see great return in overhead pressing from shoulder and overhead and full range of motion activation of the shoulder girdle and improving the posture and keeping their head from falling forward, but from a bone density response as well. There's other than the deadlift, overhead pressing has one of the greatest bone density responses for the whole body because of the axial loading of the pressure of the weight just overhead and how much recruitment of your muscle, your entire musculature you need to be able to brace that weight overhead. And then our last one is some variation of a split stance, something or other, either a split squat or a step up or something where they are splitting their feet and eventually working up and down from the floor or ascending and descending stairs. So if you get those five kind of key movement patterns trained in, those first three being the biggest focus, we see some really good returns with improved quality of life, performance, fall resistance across the board.
Okay, great stuff. I did get a question. This woman, Andrea, just asked something in the Q&A, which you guys are welcome to use. It's to the right of the green share button. Please throw questions in. And she was like, I mean, like, why are we splitting hairs over heavy or more repetitions or lighter weight? You know, I get it. We're splitting hairs because we all want to know what do we do and how do we do it to the best of our ability to help others, because we're in a very helping profession. How do we spread the word more to normalize strength training for older adults? And because she believes that there's still a stigma out there. And I think that's gotten a lot better. Dan, you're nodding your head. Please, share with us your thoughts on that.
Well, I think we all have to continue to be what I call the new paradigm of aging, right? I mean, we all have to share our success stories. Like Robert's got tons and tons and tons of clients doing really cool stuff, and he has to keep sharing that on social media. So somebody else who's 70 sees it and is like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this 70-year-old lady doing rucking? What is rucking? Right? And then you see her lifting heavy in his studio. You have to keep putting out what older adults can do, right? And should be doing. And I'm really big on heroes of aging, right? Like, we have to keep sharing stories of the Ernestine Shepherds and the Dr. Charles Eugsters and, people doing crazy stuff, right? I mean, I tell trainers, look, you can wait till you're 87 to take up wakeboarding because that's when Dr. Charles Eugster took it up, right? And then you show images of him doing that, and people are like, that's crazy. No, it's not crazy. It's normal, healthy aging. And so I think we have to continue to just smash the stereotypes of, well, 70-year-olds can't lift heavy, or 70-year-olds can't exercise hard, or 70-year-olds can't be expected to. I mean, how many times have I heard a 72-year-old lady say, well, what do you expect from me? A whole lot more than you're expecting from yourself, because I've seen it in other people. And so I think a big part of it, yeah, fine, don't split hairs over exercise techniques. Focus everything on results and what your clients are doing and champion that. And so everyone in your market is like, oh my gosh, I want to be like these people, right? That whole concept of, I just finished watching The Last Dance again with my son, right? I want to be like Mike. We need to have, I want to be like Phyllis. I want to be like Joyce. I want to be like Bob, right? Just pounding us through social media, through emails, through videos, through YouTube, so that it's expected for 60 and 70-year-olds to be doing box jumps and heavy lifting and all kinds of stuff, right? So
I hear you, Dan. I just threw a hashtag in here. It says hashtag SCW Heroes of Aging. So I want everybody on this call and all the people that are watching recordings, because we've got now 98 people listening in on this. You guys, of course I threw SCW in there because I kind of had to, but you could do hashtag Heroes of Aging and post it. And Deborah, I'm sorry, but I still love the research. Would you throw in that link on that research you shared? I thought was very good. Please put it
Sure.
into
I'll
everyone.
look for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, and we can also post it in one of our articles that we do in our newsletters, because
Okay.
I love hearing, I love this stuff. And I totally agree. And sometimes people say, well, older adults aren't on social media. And that's stupid. Of course they are. They want to check in with their grandchildren. They got to see what their kids are doing. They love Instagram. Instagram is it. Of course, Facebook, everybody says it's older adults, but it's still, it is still important. And then we did get osteopenia exercise and pelvic floor exercise. This question was thrown out by Gail. Do you have any suggestions for that? I'm gonna hit on you, Emily, and see if you can share some specifics on that.
So I love whole body vibration. So like a power plate platform vibration is incredible. If we are about efficiency, then you can do their squats and their step ups, their bicep curls, whatever other exercises you want to do on the platform. And you're essentially getting that dual stimulation, which I love. Into anything that is weight bearing. I love Robert's example of anything over the head. You're getting that stacking, which is going to stimulate the spine. So osteopenia, that I'm also huge. This is a little bit different than some of the heavy strength conversation. I am also obsessed with isometrics. And there is some great research around isometrics and creating tension within your fascial system and what that does for protecting the bones. For the pelvic floor, very similar. It's a fascial-based muscle. It connects to your feet, which I will go in on my sessions this weekend. But accessing the pelvic floor, and the pelvic floor connects to your diaphragm. One of the first things I do when I work with someone who has MS, Parkinson's, stroke, neuropathy, etc., is I get them to reestablish the connection to their diaphragm, so they're breathing, and then to their pelvic floor. And so they understand how our body is designed to relate to gravity, because if I can't control my body in gravity statically, how do I do it under load? How do I do it in a dynamic movement, a squat, a push press, whatever it may be? So I think that that is at the heart of it as well, which was why I like Dan's example of we have to do 10 minutes of brain training. We have to do this. We have to do this. And it sounds very overwhelming when people see all the check of what we need to do, but it's actually not when you realize how easy it is to seamlessly bring it into your lifestyle. Deborah said lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. I teach people how to release and activate their feet when they brush their teeth, and it becomes a lifestyle. It takes 5 minutes to do what I tell people to do with their feet.
Very cool. Perfect. And you reminded me, Emily, that yes, this weekend, and I keep forgetting about this. So I'm going to share this real quickly with you guys. We have a wonderful conference that's coming up, and
join us for the SCW Active Aging Summit, virtual March 21st to 22nd. Dive into more than 80 sessions by 40 top industry presenters. Earn your credits, learn from the best, and connect from the comfort of home. Spots are filling fast. Don't miss your chance to join the movement. SCW's Active Aging Summit. Let's move forward together.
Love it. And I can't thank you guys enough for joining me today. I love these. I always like, okay, I'm going to read that research and I'm going to read that. And I really enjoy it. So Robert, I want to thank you so much. Deborah, thank you. Emily, as always, we appreciate you. Dan Ritchie, you're a god for always coming on. And also, all of you guys on this call show up live at the conference, which is always important as well. You guys know we have the Mania conventions, but there's still time to register for the Active Aging Summit. It's Saturday and Sunday. You can sign up for 1 day or 2 days, and you can also get the recordings if you can't. If you've got to pick up your daughter at, where is she, Emily?
That gymnastics.
She's at gymnastics. So if your kid's at gymnastic, for me it was always hockey practice or baseball, whatever. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Chris Sunagin, for doing such an amazing job for herding us cats. And thank you guys for joining us. And we will see you next month. Again, we're very excited. We have the live stream mania coming up, our nutrition summit, our Aqua X summit. They're all online. Very wonderful. And then at the end of May, we're going to be in Orlando. So live up. That's my husband telling me he just landed in the airport. So I will see you all later. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.